So, welcome to the another episode, guys. Today I have Trishna alongside me, and I feel extremely delighted to be conversing someone having a real mature perspective on things that we find very alienating when we encounter it on daily basis. So, Trishna, welcome to the Nerdish Mic, and yeah, very delighted to be hosting you on the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so the very first question that usually comes to my mind when I hear your name is that why do you associate that DJ thing with your name? Like, I found that very interesting when I heard it for the very first time, and I know that what sense it makes. It means disc jockey actually. So, what really made you put that tag before your name?
So I feel like it's like a part of me, like sort of like an identity. And it's really given me like a purpose in life. I mean, I've taken like the leap of dropping out of college to pursue my career full time.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's also just like a stage name, so people can find me easily and all of that. But yeah, so how I started out is like so my dad, he passed away when I was 14 of cancer. And growing up, like he was like a big like music lover, and because of him, like I inherited my love for music because he exposed me to like a wide variety of genres. And so I was exposed to like a lot, like when I was like from the time I was really young. And by the time I was like in high school, I was playing like the music at every party. And my friends would be like asking me to make playlists for them and all of that. And like I had put in so much hard work into making those
yeah,
playlists than I ever did with my studies. Like I was not at all interested in studies,
yeah,
and I wasn't very good at it either. So yeah, so when I was 16, I had my 10th grade finals, and I am a very impatient person, and when I want something, like I have to get it.
yeah,
So I told my family, like, I want to do a course on DJing, and I want to pursue that career. And they were like, you're too young, and like finish your finals and then we can go about it. But I was like, no, I want to do it now. And having not been very good at studies my whole life, they gave me the condition that if I do well in my finals, like if I promise that, then I can do the course during my finals.
yeah,
So which would be a task in itself. But I wanted to do it then, and I had to get it done.
yeah,
So every day, like after my finals, I'd go to the studio, and on the way to the studio, I'd be like practicing whatever I like learned the class before. And on my way back, I'd be studying for my exams, and I really like gave it my best for my
yeah,
exams and the course.
yeah,
And I passed both with like flying colors. I did like really well in both. And then like a couple months later, like just after I got done, I was like, okay, like now what? Like, how do I go ahead? I'm only 16. I don't even know for a fact if I'm gonna get a gig being so young.
yeah,
But this company reached out to me, and that was also because of the name DJ Trishina. I
yeah,
guess that's sort of how they found me. And yes, I got my first gig like just a couple months after I finished my course. And in the beginning, obviously, it was really hard. There were a lot of struggles I faced. I mean, um, being so young, I wasn't taken very seriously, taken a little bit of advantage of, in the sense like, I was a little gullible and all. And I would take any opportunity to, DJ at that point. So, I mean, like it was hard because I
mm,
was like, after I finished my finals, I
mm,
continued studying,
mm,
and to have to juggle, college and a career where I'm working late nights, that was like a struggle in itself. And in the beginning, I mean, my gigs were literally like I'd be playing for like 5, 10 people.
mm,
And for like the first year, I was doing like every gig for free because like that's how
mm,
you start off,
mm,
and playing at the most random places,
mm,
playing for like barely 10,
mm,
15 people.
mm.
But then within a year, I signed like a pretty big company.
Yeah,
And from there, it all picked up. So by the time I was 17, I started playing at like the bigger clubs in
Yeah.
Bombay. My price obviously kept increasing, and I mean, in general, in this industry, there is a lot of like pressure to like mostly like to keep a name for yourself, because um like it's a growing industry,
Yeah.
and it's scary because anyone can take your place. Like if I was going
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
1 month holiday, the whole time I'd be stressing, like, what if I come back and I'm not getting as many gigs as
Yeah.
before? Like, what if
Mm.
someone
Mm.
better has come
Mm.
and like replaced me? So there's always that like pressure of keeping up a good name
Mm.
and then like maintaining it, plus like building it by like networking and obviously like showcasing your talent and stuff.
Yeah.
So and the thing is, like, because I started so young,
Mm.
I just struggled with the fact that like I was in school and there
Mm.
would be parties like every weekend, someone's birthday or the other, and I missed out on so much because if I had a gig that weekend, I couldn't go
Yeah.
for that party.
Yeah.
So I sort of felt like, I've started too young. Like
Mm.
none of my friends were obviously doing anything at that point. And,
Mm.
like New Year's and all these like big holidays where people would like, have like huge parties and all my friends would like get together. Like I had to miss out on all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, it was completely worth it. Even now, like I
Yeah.
don't get to really celebrate New Year's like
Mm.
the way everyone else does. But for me, like the way I'm celebrating is like I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm.
And so my father basically, like, he used to pay the bills
Mm.
for my family, and I have three siblings. So my mom is a housewife,
Mm.
and like I sort of put that pressure on myself to provide for my family. I
Mm.
mean, it was all like by me. Like no one else was like putting pressure on me,
Yeah.
but I took that on myself to
Mm.
earn money and like do anything I can to provide for my
Mm.
family. So I never kept any of the money that I earned for myself. Like it always went like to my mom, and it was
Yeah.
spent like between like my whole family. Um, and then like, so when I was 15, to cope with my dad's death, and
Yeah.
in the start it was just like I want to try it out. I like gave into like trying a couple of joints here and there,
Yeah.
like you know and
Yeah.
I was really young at that point,
Mm.
so not many people did it in my
Yeah.
grade. Like there were like literally like 2-3 people doing it,
Yeah.
and everyone who like found out about it in my batch at that point, that like we were like doing drugs and all
Yeah.
of that, like they were like judging us like really hard, and like
Yeah.
we were those kids, like those bad kids in like
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Now those people are into
Yeah.
like much harder drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so when I started out, I was very like I'm not gonna get addicted.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it like a few times here and there.
Mm.
But the first time I did it, like the amount I liked it, like I instantly liked it, that scared
Mm.
me in itself, because I was
Yeah.
like, how am I gonna keep myself in control if this is giving me like, it was basically just an escape from everything,
Mm.
and it gave me that sort of like peace that I was like looking for.
Yeah.
So I was like, how am I gonna keep this in
Yeah.
control? But I managed to do it for
Yeah.
around a year.
Mm.
And then when I was 16 is when I started DJing.
Yeah.
And I became way more social. I was like out every weekend playing.
Mm.
And I sort of like told myself, like convinced myself that,
Yeah.
I'm earning money at the age of 16.
Yeah.
I'm, I did well in my exams. I'm
Mm.
like, doing so much. I'm working like a job,
Mm.
and like I'm missing out on so much, that I convinced myself that I deserve to like, just get to after my gig, just chill
Yeah.
and like smoke on and like,
Mm.
have fun.
Mm.
So that's sort of how it started. And I was meeting more and more people, and like the
Mm.
industry is sort of that way, right? Like almost everyone does it.
Mm.
And I was offered it all the time. And
Yeah.
sort of like built this reputation
Mm.
like for myself, where like I became like I mean, there aren't many female DJs. So
Yeah.
I was like, I obviously stood out being like
Yeah.
a girl.
Mm.
So I had that attention on me. And then, I had this like image of being like
Mm.
this cool DJ who by then dropped out of college, which was for some reason glorified by people in my
Yeah. Yeah.
grade because they were like, "You're so lucky, you don't have to study, you're
Yeah.
living the life, like
Mm.
you just get to pay, like get paid to party every
Yeah.
weekend."
Yeah.
But that's how it seemed like on the
Mm.
outside.
Mm.
And I was like, then I started like falling into the whole trap of like drugs and started doing it almost every day when I was 17. By the time I was 18, it became my entire lifestyle. Like, I couldn't go a day without it.
Mm.
Um, and almost like every second of every day, I was high and not in my senses.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, through all of this, like from the time I like tried it, from the time
Yeah.
I started out, I was completely aware of what I was doing and
Mm.
how wrong it was.
Mm.
So that's why, I mean, in the start, I even told myself, like, I don't want to get addicted to it. But I mean, it is a very slippery slope, like
Yeah.
addiction in general.
Yeah.
You don't see it coming. You always say, like,
Mm.
I'm just gonna try it. I'll just
Yeah.
do it a couple of times, and you don't realize when
Mm.
you like get so into it, and by then it's like sort of too late.
Yeah.
And that's like what happened for me. And throughout these years that like I was like doing drugs, um, I was like battling stuff that like no one knew about. And to everyone else, I was like always happy, always partying,
Yeah.
and that was like a reputation I
Yeah.
had, and a reputation I went out of my way to maintain. So I
Yeah.
would do a lot of like crazy things, like, living life on the edge kind of stuff, um, which I thought I was enjoying in the moment. And, it came across to everyone as like, I was like really cool and I was like, this fun
Yeah.
DJ and who parties and does
Yeah.
drugs and all of that. So I sort of did a lot of that stuff to keep up this image of mine
Yeah.
that I deep down didn't even like. Like I was like, I don't like that person, but I don't even know anymore
Yeah.
why I did it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so throughout those years, I was like just like in a conflict with myself. Like,
Mm.
I deep down hated that I was doing what I was doing, and so many thoughts used to come in my head. Like, when I was high,
Yeah.
I'd be thinking like my dad must be like watching me right
Yeah.
now, and he must be so disappointed.
Mm.
And I completely changed in those years. Like I've always been a family person,
Yeah.
but in those years I completely detached from my family. I changed the way I behaved around them, spoke to them. I
Mm.
wasn't very nice. Um, my brother, so I have two sisters and a brother, and my brother is autistic.
Yeah.
And growing up, we've been like super close. And
Yeah.
I like we had like our thing was like going for movies together
Mm.
like every week. And because like he doesn't really understand properly, like Bollywood is like his like favorite. Like
Yeah.
he's a huge fan of Bollywood.
Mm.
And I'm not at all a fan of Bollywood,
Mm.
but I would go for like movies with
Yeah.
him just to keep him company. And I'd like only pay attention to the movies to
Yeah.
explain it to him like during and like make sure he's like understanding.
Yeah.
But in those years, I barely spoke to him.
Mm.
I completely stopped hanging out with him. And then because there was like that inner voice like telling me like I shouldn't be doing this,
Mm.
out of that guilt, I'd like, a couple of times go take him for a movie or two. And like it still wasn't the same because I'd be high when I'd go and I myself wouldn't be understanding the movie to be able to explain it to him.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the same. And I think even he sort of realized that. Like he'd always tell me like, you don't
Mm.
spend time with me anymore. And the thing about like doing drugs is like after a point you don't really care. Like
Mm.
um that's the thing, like you don't
Mm.
care, but for some reason I still did. Like somehow deep down I still did.
Yeah.
like a lot of my friends, like they didn't care, and they didn't think what they were doing was wrong. They glorified it so much.
Yeah.
But I never once said, like, I love,
Mm,
drugs, or like
mm,
drugs are the best, because to me it was like a coping mechanism.
yeah.
But I knew that it was wrong, and I didn't want to be doing it. But by the time I got so deep into it, I built like a dependence on it,
Mm,
and I couldn't do without it even if I tried.
mm,
So that was the hard part, because I wanted to stop and I couldn't.
mm,
And for an entire year,
mm,
every other day I tell my friends, like, I'm gonna detox for like a week,
yeah.
or I'm, gonna take a tolerance break and all of that. And I wouldn't last more than like half a day.
Yeah.
So, like, after a point, and I keep trying because I wanted to, like, I wanted to try to stop.
Mm,
And it just like wasn't possible for me, because by then I was like too far in.
mm,
And so by the time I was 18, I started therapy for this, like
mm,
to be able to,
mm,
like slowly cut down, at least if
mm,
not get off it completely, just cut down. And for like an entire year, we were like working on it. And I'd
mm,
make like so many promises, I'd make so many plans, and I just never follow it. And that's when I realized, like, no one can really help you. Like, it all has to be from within. Like, only if you really want to stop,
yeah.
like, can you stop. No one can convince you out of it.
Mm,
And
yeah.
no matter how many plans you make, like,
Mm,
unless you really like give it your 100%, like,
mm,
you're not going to stick to it.
yeah.
So that, even that didn't work for me.
Mm,
And because of like smoking weed so much,
mm,
I got like anxiety.
mm,
So that like also comes with smoking a lot of weed.
yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time, but when I started feeling anxious, I continued therapy and stuff.
Mm,
And when like then when I
mm,
started therapy for everything else,
mm,
that's when I realized, like, I already knew, but I think I just need to hear it like from a professional, that all of this is just me avoiding my feelings and my emotions and my problems, and
yeah.
bottling things up. And because I had that reputation of, like, always being happy, always having
Mm,
fun, I'd never ever show that I was like, facing any like problems in life, or that I was battling anything. Like, no one would be able to tell.
yeah.
So that also took a toll on me by the
Mm,
end of it. And I, like, it was not doing any good to anyone that way.
yeah.
And I have like a lot of like love and support from a lot of people, and a lot of people I can turn to. But I just like found it really hard to do that. And I've always been like a very reserved person. Like, I
Mm,
don't let my guard down very easily. And that, I think, just, that
mm,
reputation part of it just sort of made it harder for me.
yeah.
So yeah, so finally, after like years and years of smoking and
Yeah.
basically like ruining my life,
Mm,
um in 2020 I had like a little incident.
mm,
So my family had no idea that I was like doing drugs.
yeah.
And that was so because, like, even though I was high 24/7, um my like lifestyle was such that, like, I'd come home at 7 in the morning.
Mm,
By then, everyone would be asleep, obviously.
yeah.
And by the time I'd wake up, it would be like 5 in the evening.
Mm,
And by then, everyone was like doing their own thing. And I was obviously sober by then. And I would like shower and just leave the house. And
mm,
then I wouldn't come back. And like, so they wouldn't see me. And then
mm,
I'd be high again till like early in the morning.
mm,
And it was anyway, like, besides the smoking, also such a unhealthy lifestyle to live. And when I dropped out of college, my aim was to focus on my music and build my career. But
yeah.
instead, all I did in that time was like take advantage of my free time and like use it to like smoke.
Mm,
And all that money that I was earning to provide for my family ended up getting spent on drugs.
mm,
Which is one thing, like, till date I will always
yeah.
feel guilty about among everything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in 2020, like during lockdown, I like stocked up on my stash because I knew I wouldn't be able to leave.
mm,
and I got like really high one night,
mm,
and it was like say like 3 in the morning,
mm,
and I was FaceTiming a friend, and we decided we were like smoking together and everything, and we decided to make edibles.
yeah,
So I went to the kitchen, and she was like on call in the room, and I went to the kitchen, and I basically had to put something in the microwave.
yeah,
And I'm anyway like really bad, like in
mm,
the kitchen. Plus, on top of that, I was very out of my senses. And suddenly, like when I opened the microwave, like there was like this beeping noise, and like
mm,
a whole lot of smoke came out.
mm,
And I like panicked, like I didn't know what was happening.
mm,
So I quickly ran and I woke my help up, and they got up with a start, and like even
mm,
they could smell the smoke and everything. So they came running to the kitchen, and they saw that basically I'd put a spoon
mm,
in the microwave. So that caused like the smoke and everything. And obviously I was too high to realize I'm not supposed to do that.
yeah,
So then when I realized everything's okay, I told them like go back to sleep because I felt bad for waking them up with such a start.
mm,
And just as they started walking away, like the paranoia took over me like completely. And
mm,
suddenly I'm like, I wake up on the kitchen floor, like I blacked out,
mm,
woke up on the kitchen floor with like a terrible pain at the back of my head.
yeah,
And my mom and sister like screaming and running towards me.
mm,
And I like quickly got up with a start. And like I had no idea what had happened.
yeah,
And so I tried to get up because I was like so
mm,
shocked, and like I saw the face like that my mom was making and my sister and how scared they were. And like I felt terrible in that moment, so I quickly got up, and I was like about to fall again because my legs were like so weak.
mm,
And my sister like caught me and everything, and they carried me to my room,
mm,
and then they like sat me down, and in my room like all my stash was like left out.
mm,
And so they saw everything. And I threw up and everything after, and my help told my mom that basically I fell and I hit my head on the kitchen door and then fell and hit my head
mm,
on the marble floor. So that explained like the pain.
yeah,
And then I threw up and everything, and they put me onto like my bed. And like I just saw like their faces, and they were so like traumatized and like
yeah,
worried.
mm,
And like I just like started crying because I was like I felt
mm,
like such a disappointment like in that moment. And that's the way they had to find out about all of
mm,
this, and they were obviously like so startled by it. And so then my mom like she stayed up the whole night like checking my temperature to make sure I didn't have like a concussion or anything. And gave me a couple meds and stuff, and tried to put me to sleep, and she was like praying the entire night that
mm,
like I'm okay. And for some reason I just had this like terrible feeling that I'm not gonna wake up if I go to sleep.
mm,
And I just like I was so scared to sleep, and I kept telling them like I was like I'm scared, and like I feel like I'm not gonna open my eyes tomorrow. And so I just like told them like I was so convinced that I was like in case I like don't wake up, like I
yeah,
love you, and like I'm so sorry for everything that
mm,
like that has happened, and like all the like trauma and pain I've like
yeah,
caused you guys. Not even just that day, like over the years, like with my
mm,
whole behavior and
yeah,
everything, like the person I became. So I like apologized to them and everything, and finally like I went to sleep, and obviously like woke up the next day.
mm,
And I was like so like upset with myself, and I just like sat in like a dark room the whole day and reflected on like the last couple of years.
mm,
And I was like, in the beginning I was like why me, like why did this have to happen to me, and why did this have to happen to my family. And
mm,
I was like blaming God at that point.
yeah,
But within like the second half of the day I was like thanking God, because I
mm,
was like I feel like I've gotten like a second chance at life, and like a wake up call with like without me getting hurt. Like it was something drastic, but like enough for me to like decide that I want to completely quit. but also I came out like without any like, damage done.
Yeah.
So it was literally like, I needed that because
Mm.
no matter how hard I was trying all those years, like I couldn't stop. So
Mm.
I needed something drastic to happen to get me to finally like quit. And I guess it was like a way out, and like, I don't know, God's way of helping me,
Mm.
because like, it was very obvious that I wanted to stop.
Yeah.
And then like I spoke to my mom after, and like we had like a really long conversation. I
Mm.
told her everything about the last few years in my life,
Mm.
and like we both cried a lot. And
Mm.
she blamed herself a lot because she
Mm.
felt like she had been a bad parent. And I
Yeah.
told her like it was completely my fault. Like whether she knew or not, I would have figured a way to still do it because I was like so addicted.
Mm.
And I just like was like super honest with her about everything, and it was obviously a lot for her to take in. um but she made me like promise that I'm never gonna go back to that, because like she didn't want to see me the way I was, and she was like, I just want like my daughter back, like the way you were before all of this started. um I also felt so guilty at that point that I was like, you know what, like I don't want to go back to this. And so I went 2 months without like doing it. But if I'm being honest, I did like take a couple drags here and there,
Mm.
because in all those years,
Yeah.
like my social circle became like all like druggies and like stoners. And
Mm.
because like I was like that, I'd end up like, literally smoking with like these random people who like I'd probably never see again, whose names I didn't even know. But
Mm.
just because they were smoking, like if they'd asked me to smoke with them, like I'd never say no. I'd
Mm.
never like turn down an
Yeah.
offer. The only good part of all of this was that I never um like DJ'd when I was high. Like I
Yeah.
always made it a point to do that sober, and then after that I would like, get high and all of that. But I never let it interfere with like my career.
Yeah.
And yeah, so after those 2 months, I was like, at least it's like progress. And I would like contradict a lot, like
Mm.
in my head. Like I would like, one voice would be telling me like it's okay, like
Yeah.
you've like still made progress, and the other would be like, you've made a promise to your family, and like
Mm.
you've been waiting to do this for so long, like
Mm.
just like stick to it. And I obviously had like a lot of withdrawals like in those 2 months. And then I went through like a really bad heartbreak like right
Yeah.
after those 2 months.
Mm.
So I relapsed like right
Mm.
after, and I was still not half as bad as I was before, but I was getting there. So till this year, Jan, I was just going in circles. Like I
Mm.
would relapse, then decide like I want to stop again. It was just like how it was before.
Yeah.
And finally, like this year in Jan, I told myself like this is getting me nowhere.
Mm.
And like for myself, for my family, for my dad, like I want to stop like completely. And every time like since I quit like in like last year, every time I was sober, I was doing so much better. Like I was so much healthier.
Mm.
I would be able to like, work out and do the things I'm passionate about. And, actually like spend time with my family and catch up on like the lost time that like the time that I lost like in all these years. So like this year I decided to like completely give it up, and now
Mm.
it's been like 10 months and I haven't like in those 2 months I was still
Mm.
taking a couple drags here and there.
Yeah.
But I can't even
Mm.
believe when I like say it, like
Mm.
it still doesn't hit me that like for 10 months like I haven't touched it,
Mm.
and I'm still surrounded by it. I mean, even as a DJ in general, that is the environment.
Mm.
Everyone I know, like my age, does it. People now in like this generation, like
Mm.
people at like 13 and 14
Yeah.
do more than I've ever done.
Mm.
So it's like crazy how much like people do. And like it's like I can like I can literally count like the friends that I
Yeah.
have that don't do drugs.
mm,
but everyone else like doesn't, and it's hard like being around it. And but now like I've gone to the point where even if I'm like tempted, I know like it's not worth it, and where I am right now is like so much better than where I was before.
mm,
And yeah, so then last year, after like the heartbreak and everything, like I went through a lot,
mm,
and I got diagnosed with like anxiety and depression.
mm,
And so that's when I changed my therapist, because the old one was mainly like specializing in substance abuse.
mm,
But then I went to like a psychologist that
mm,
specializes in all of this, like
mm,
anxiety, depression, and all of that.
mm,
So I started therapy there, and I was doing hypnotherapy as
mm,
well. So I was going to like two therapists, and I mean, it obviously helped in a way, but it was like still like I had unusually high anxiety, and I was depressed for a really long time.
yeah,
And with that, like, I mean, you have like zero motivation to do anything. Like,
mm,
it's really hard to like function and like go about your life normally when you're
mm,
like, depressed and even just anxious. Like, it's like plays a role in like every part of my day. So, finally, after a point, I got on medication,
mm,
and now it's been like a year since I've been on it. And then this year I got diagnosed with mild bipolar disorder and mild borderline personality disorder,
yeah,
which was like a lot to take in,
mm,
like being diagnosed with all of this. And
mm,
definitely like the whole drugs part had a big like role in it,
mm,
because all of this is like from everything that I was like avoiding all these years.
mm,
That is how like all of this came up. Like
mm,
obviously I wasn't born with it. Like nothing really like
mm,
it's not like one thing can happen and you get like a disorder like this.
yeah,
So I technically feel like I brought it upon myself, but I'm getting the right help, and like I'm on medication, and I've been like completely sober. And now I'm just basically actually taking this time, like where like I've dropped out of college to focus on my music and actually like
yeah,
get better and like make it big in my career.
mm,
And just like focusing on my mental health like the most, because I realized the importance of it like only very recently.
mm,
And yeah, just doing the things I love, like
mm,
I volunteer at like animal shelters.
yeah,
that's also very therapeutic for me.
mm,
Music of course is like my therapy.
mm,
um and like sports and like gymming and everything, like all of these things that completely stopped doing in all those years, I've
mm,
like gone back to. And like I was so miserable like
yeah,
back then, like deep down I was like I convinced myself that I was having the time of my life. And like deep down I was so I was battling so much that
mm,
it didn't really feel like that deep down. And like I had made like a whole lot of memories, but like I couldn't even remember them
yeah,
because of like how out of like my senses I would be. And like what's the point in that, right? And now like the memories I make, I actually remember them and cherish them, and like
mm,
I'm able to be present and like enjoy them. And so last year, after I got diagnosed, I like came out with a book. I published a book.
yeah,
I wrote it within 3 months,
mm,
and it was just like a book on my life.
mm,
Like just covering like everything I've been through, starting with like
yeah,
loss, which was like a pretty big chapter. Like not
mm,
just about my dad, about a
mm,
couple like other things too.
yeah,
Um, then about my career, about
mm,
like my addiction, how I got out of my addiction, um, about pride. So when I was like in 2018, I realized like I'm bisexual,
mm,
which again was like a little hard to accept
yeah,
in the start.
mm,
I don't know why, because now it's something I'm really proud of. I don't
yeah,
know, maybe I just
mm,
like, of course, like the chemicals in my brain and all of that were
yeah,
very different. So
mm,
I understand and deal with things very differently back then.
mm,
And yeah, so about like, just like coming out and like how normal it is, and
Mm,
everything that like people can relate to.
mm,
And basically I just like ended it with, like shit happens, like
mm,
obviously, like can't like life can't be perfect, like there will be
mm,
struggles and all of that, but it's how you like learn from them and reflect on them, and like try to be like, as like look at the positives of it. Like sometimes I'm like, I pity myself, but then I remember that, like, I came out with this book, and
mm,
the responses that I got made me feel like I've made like a difference,
mm,
because like people have like told me that, they've gotten like the courage to come out to their family after reading my book. They've decided to quit drugs, and
mm,
like my aim of the, like when I wrote the book, was just
mm,
that I, like, if I help even one person, like I've
mm.
accomplished like everything. Like I've achieved what I wanted to by writing the book. So yeah, so I was just like, it's very like overwhelming,
Yeah.
and like I feel like, like I actually have a purpose in life now,
Mm,
as compared to like before I was literally just like wasting my life. So
mm,
that's
mm.
like my story basically.
Yeah. Extremely beautiful to be hearing that from a person who has really experienced all of these things. And yeah, when talking about that, how you describe those nuances of your story, I get extremely fascinated to be knowing that what sort of battles you faced, what sort of battles you actually fought on the first place. And apart from all of those things, how you really encountered people on daily basis. How did you function differently before you were not sober and after you went sober? So, I mean, up till now,
Yeah,
it looks that you are driving towards that vision of yourself where you want to start life afresh and want to pursue something that you are really passionate about. Extremely
yeah, for
beautiful
sure.
story of yours, and I feel that it should be circulated to as many as people possible. And it's not about you only; it's about too many people. Around 20 million people in USA, I think, are diagnosed with substantial abuse, and only 2 million people are supposed to get the medications, the required medication for that. So the margin is very huge, and the difference is also very huge. And to give that proper attention to all those people at a given point of time is really difficult. And
Yeah,
and to you, how you described all those nuances and how your struggles have been, I think it would provide people a point of perspective from where they could start looking at this problem differently and would like to act upon it. So thank you so much,
definitely.
Trishna. Thank you so much for telling your story. And yeah, I definitely feel that people's life would be changed once they'll actually get to hear you. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on to the show, and thank you for sharing your perspective.
thank you. And I just want to say
Yeah.
one thing, that if like anyone's going through anything and
Mm,
is like trying to resort to
mm,
drugs, with experience, I'm telling you that
mm,
it is temporary relief,
mm,
and
mm.
you're just escaping something that you're going to have to deal with eventually,
Yeah.
but also adding on to your problems by
Mm,
like adding addiction to the
mm,
list, and getting
mm,
out of it is extremely hard. Once
mm.
you're addicted, you're not just going to be able to stop. You will relapse, you will face
Yeah.
withdrawals, and you may want to give up. Like
Mm,
once you're facing the withdrawals, you may feel like it's not worth it.
mm,
And no matter how many people convince you, it
mm,
can only come from within, and
mm.
you're the only one who can change it. And definitely, like, you can't be successful or happy or make it in life if you're doing those things. So it's definitely like not worth it, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. So
Mm,
just in case anyone's even like considering getting into it, this
mm,
is just like sort of a warning that, you
mm.
know you're gonna end up like causing more problems in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I want to say. And my book is called Smoke and Mirrors,
Yeah.
and it's out on Amazon.
Mm,
So if anyone wants
yeah.
any more inspiration or more details about the story,
Yeah.
then check it
I'll link down the link of your book down there in the description, and also to your all handles also will be linked down in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing all that perspective you had. I
Thank you.
believe this is one of the most complex topics that I have ever heard someone speaking on. And
Wow.
you were so much flawless that at a point I got that I got that idea to say that someone could experience a problem from that point where they would feel helpless, and after a point when they continuously start working onto it, they'll get automatically out of it. So this is
Yeah.
something very inspirational that people could take out of this conversation or story of yours. Thank you, Trishna. Thank you
I'm
so much.